Greetings, gentlemen and ladies, gamers, YouTubers, roughnecks, and all of you philosophers out there. It is your fellow gentleman, D. El Rico, and we are back here once again for Philosophical Fridays. And I'm not going to do that voice because, yeah, it scratches the throat just a bit. Welcome to part 2 of my explanation of the true love algorithm that I have come up with. If you haven't seen the very first episode in which I discuss the first part of the equation, which is SL in the parentheses as you see here, right after the equal sign, T upside down L equals SL. Go watch video 1 first so you can understand just this second part of the transition, because in this transition, as you can see, the next part of the algorithm, it is a long one. There's a lot to it. Near the end, you have the upside down V, and right next to that, within all those parentheses, is another SL, and I will explain exactly why all of that comes together and why each one is on the outside. But in any event, we are focusing on the meat and potatoes of this one, right here in the very center, right there, right where the T starts, that big one, all over that, what is, I discovered as a pound sign in England. It's a pound sign, but we're using it as a backwards C with a little line through it to stand for communication. That's where we're focusing on at. Now, in this breakdown, basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to tell you what all of the letters in the top line indicate, but I'm going to have to break down the A that's right in the very center. I've already broken down communication. I've already broken down the upside down V at the very end, which is time. But I got to break down the A because that is another big one. As you can see right under it, A equals all of these letters plus another couple of letters all over I. And then I got to break down the I underneath that, which breaks down into its own little algorithm right down there at the very bottom, close to the bottom right. And yeah, so we got a lot to discuss before we actually take on the whole algorithm on a whole. So right now we're just going to focus on this meat and potatoes part right here in the very center. There we go. And we're going to go just across the board, just right from left to right. We got TR multiplied by L, and that's in its own little parentheses, multiplied together, divided by the fancy little F, and then that's closed off on that parentheses, multiplied by A, and then in its own little parentheses, multiplied by SA divided by COM, multiplied by G over an upside down V. And then all of that is divided by the backwards C, which stands for communication, which we broke down in episode 1. So again, if you haven't seen episode 1, do so right now. Check it out, because if you don't understand what C means, you're gonna, I don't even know if you're gonna understand what this means. This is a this is a pretty complicated algorithm. But in any event, so that's communication down at the bottom. So for the top part, TR, it equals, it stands for trust, and that is multiplied by L, which is loyalty, and all of that is divided by a fancy little F, which I've deemed as faith. Now, I'm talking about faith not in the aspects of religion and Christianity or Catholicism, Hindi or Jewish or whatever it is that you, whatever religion it is that you follow. That is not what that F means. That does not pertain to religion. It's just how much faith you have on the person. Trust and loyalty obviously go one hand in hand. The more you trust somebody, the more you want to be loyal to them. But again, it's all depending upon the faith you have with that other person. If you have a lot of faith in that person, then your faith, the amount that it's going to be divided by, it'll either balance out or it's going to be even greater, to where a greater number, to where the trust is just a lot. You could see how much more enhanced it is in relevance to the other parts of the equation. I'm going to get to A in a second, but I will tell you that it stands for attraction. Now, obviously, we had to break down attraction because attraction goes into many different parts. But again, I will break that down into its own little algorithm in just a second. And then in its own little paragraph on to the side, you have SA, which stands for sacrifice, and that is divided by COM, which is compromise. It is because of these 2 points, sacrifice and compromise, that everything is pretty much over the divided by communication. without communication, you can't get across that, maybe I want this painting held up in the living room. Maybe I want this particular couch or this particular love seat because it holds a significant value to me. You got to communicate about these things in order to have a successful transition when it comes to sacrifice and compromise, because otherwise one of you is going to be sacrificing a little too much, and they're going to realize down the line, man, I gave up my friends, I gave up where I lived, I gave up my job, I gave up, all these things for the relationship, and it's like I'm not getting that much in return. You're not compromising with me. So that's why sacrifice and compromise is in its kind of division form, because they go hand in hand, but they also reciprocate one another. It's just one over the other. As you can see next, we have a G, and that is divided by the upside down V, which we've already discussed is time. Now, if you need to, for time, I believe I also talked about that in the first episode, in the first part of this algorithm. But the G stands for goals, your personal goals, whether they're for your career, whether for your education, as a family, your goals in the relationship, as far as what you're trying to develop together, what you guys want to develop on your own, financial success, stability, a house, apartment, do you want a condo, how many cars are you going to have? It's all about what kind of goals and how much time you have left. If you're getting married into your 50s and 60s, obviously you're not going to be thinking about what kind of home you want. You should already have your own home. You're not going to be thinking about kids because you already have kids, possibly even grandkids. Whereas if you're young, maybe you just got out of high school, you're on the verge of going to college, and you get married between 18 and 21, what are your goals then? Do you still want to pursue school? Is your husband going to pursue school, get a job, and he's going to take care of you, kind of thing? Are you guys going to be both part of the working class? What are your goals going to be, and how much time do you have left? That's why it's all in that little division symbol. And all of those in its own little parentheses over the pound sign. French, the European money pound sign, which is communication. So there you have it. Trust, loyalty divided by faith, multiplied by attraction. All of that multiplied by sacrifice over compromise, multiplied by goals over time, and then everything divided by communication. Now, like I said, we have to break down attraction quite a bit, because attraction happens in many ways. You could have met them on a bar. You could have met them online. A lot of things that happen today happen with social media, happen with online gaming, happen with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and there's hundreds of different ways. So the attraction is the one that we have to break down next, and this is what attraction looks like in its own algorithm. You have A, which is equal to pH multiplied, and pH multiplied by its own little parentheses of capital A, MA, and then parentheses C, capital H, and you notice that one is different from the one on the end with they're both lowercase ch. And then all of that is over I, and then plus the upside down L, which we've talked about as time, divided by X. Now what these ones indicate, here you go, pH stands for physical attraction. Now obviously that has to do with your eyes, your face, your build, your hair, your coif, and everything to do with you physically. Your smell can be a part of your physical appearance and whatever catches the eye of the significant other. So you have physical attraction. Now in their own little parentheses you have MA, which is mental attraction, and a C with a capital H, which is character. Now those two are multiplied together because your character shows through your mental attraction shows your character. Are you mature and intelligent enough to hold a conversation? Do you talk about things other than, let's say, a typical frat guy, which is drinking and partying and farting and fighting and girls' boobs and butts and wanting to work out? And do you have more than just a one-track mind? And that's why mental attraction and character go hand in hand. And then out of their simple parentheses, you have on the other side this lowercase ch, which is chemistry. Now, chemistry is huge when it comes to attraction. You could find the hottest guy on earth, whether or girl. If for all of you, for all the ladies and guys listening, if you find the hottest guy or girl on earth, they could be as dumb as rocks. Now, for me, intelligence is really important, and even if it's not all that important to you, it still holds and some kind of intrinsic value. Again, if you can't speak with them on some kind of an emotional level, it's not going to work. You're not going to, I know most of you out there wouldn't want to just base your relationship off of sex. So intelligence, again, is that's why intelligence is right beneath them, because it's all divided by how smart they are and their intellect. Again, I breaks down into his own little equation and algorithm, because intelligence is measured in different ways. But in any event, we got to move on. We got to go to that little add addition symbol and go to the next part. Now those are added, that whole little division problem that I've portrayed is all added to the upside down L, which is L, love, excuse me. God, I can't even speak right now. Which is love, and that's divided by X, which is sex. Now, love and sex, they somewhat go hand in hand, just like compromise and sacrifice did. They reciprocate one another. Now, if you're really in love, you don't call it sex, you call it making love. And if, obviously, if you're not in love, you call it what it is, and that's where your little conundrum goes. Now, how much emotion have you really put into it before you actually have given the act of making love to that other person? So that's why that's on the outside instead of multiplied all together within that first part of the division sign, because the sex, that's all like a bonus. That is a sprinkling. It is whipped cream on top of the hot chocolate and gummy bears on top of the ice cream. It's a topping. It's not something to be based as a foundation of what the relationship should be about, because if you base the relationship off of sex, then you get to a point where it's like, well, I'm arguing and we're fighting and we're not getting along. We're going to have sex to make it up. There's nothing new in our relationship. Things are getting boring. Well, we're going to have sex, and we're going to try to spice things up that way. You got to be able to build some kind of better foundation, whether it be video games, like, I see a lot of girls coming out saying that they're girl gamers and whatnot. A lot of them are getting into video games with their boyfriend. A lot of them are getting into cars and learning how to, go to car shows and appreciate different things that normally guys would only be into. And that shows, again, a lot of character in that female into wanting to know your stuff. And guys, same thing. Maybe you don't like rom-coms and romantic comedies, and you want to watch some with her. Or she's, they have a lot of just feminine qualities that guys normally wouldn't gravitate to. And again, it's up to us to kind of figure those out. Again, it's all about that sacrifice and compromise. Sacrifice just a bit of our masculinity and compromise with them enough to say, you know what, I'm going to go see the new Sparks movie with you. I'm going to go see The Notebook when it airs its 10th anniversary in the theater with you. And girls will do the same. You know what? The Hobbit is coming out with their big marathon this upcoming weekend. I don't really care for action and fantasy kind of movies, but you love it. I'm going to go with you. Sacrifice and compromise. Again, go hand in hand. They go with intelligence. And that's exactly what this part of the equation shows. So that's for the attraction. There you have it. You have physical attraction multiplied by mental attraction multiplied by the character of the person. Now, in the very first episode, we broke down character, because again, character is measured by so many different things that make up somebody's personality. So again, watch that first episode so you can know and catch up as to what exactly it all entails when it kind of meshes together. So character, and then all of that multiplied by chemistry, and all divided by intelligence. And then you add on the little sprinkling to the top, the love over sex. Because guess what? Sometimes relationships are just based off of sex. Sometimes the only attraction to a person is sex. And that's very unfortunate. It's very sad. It makes me sad to even think about it. Anyway, we're gonna move on from that topic, and we're gonna go down and break down that little I right beneath the A, which stood for intelligence. Now, intelligence is broken down. Here you go. It is broken down into not as complicated, but enough. It's enough to have its own little algorithm. But intelligence, is the sum of education and street smarts. Now, those are added together because it's not. You're not going to multiply those kind of things. It's just everything that you've obtained over the course of your life, whether you went to college or not, whether you took a vocational school. Maybe it was just, maybe you lived on the streets for a long time and you just know certain things about them and the way the world works. I have this little kind of analysis. There's a, let's pretend there was somebody, they took a whole life of celibacy. They decided, I'm never going to have sex. I don't want to experience sex. It complicates things. It everybody that I know that has had sex, it just kind of made them, it blinded them from a lot of the reality that was really around there. So anyway, whatever her reason was, she decided not to have sex ever again. Took a life of celibacy. Now that person, she can read up on sex all she wants. She can read about the position. She can read about the emotions that could be felt during it. She can read about the actions. She could read about different things that the body goes through as far as like reproducing and side effects, maybe sometimes, whatever the case may be. She can read up about it all she wants. But when it comes down to somebody explaining the emotions intensifying between just having sex and actually having intimacy and making love, she can never do that because she's already vowed to never have sex. But the person who is experienced, who has experienced those kind of emotions and has been, has gotten married and has been with her husband and knows the feelings of love versus, maybe their college days and just kind of being wild and free with it, they can understand and they can tell you the difference between just mindless screwing versus actually having a meaningful relationship and the intensity that the passion brings. So again, you can study and read up all you want. Education is great, but without the street smarts and without actually living it and going through the motions, you don't have a full idea of how to go about certain things, which is why the last part, those two things are added together and multiplied by LEX, which we explain in the very first episode, is life experience. And all of that is divided by time. It's all divided by time, because how much time you've spent on the earth depends on how much you know. I'm always going to be smarter than a 15-year-old. I don't care if that 15-year-old has graduated high school, they're already on to college. I have more life experience, and I know more because of my life experience than that little 15-year-old will ever know. They can know about all the periodic tables, they can know about biology and their calculus, and they can know whatever subject, rocket science and everything that they're studying. But I have more life experience. I can tell them a lot about human behavior. I can tell them a lot about love and relationships. I can tell them a lot about video games, as I imagine that they might be able to program them, but I can tell them how to be better and how to play them. Life experience always gives you the upper edge in your whole educational outpour. Not to say that school isn't important, so don't be dropping out of school thinking, no, I got the streets, they'll teach me. No, education is important. I'm still in school. I'm pursuing that. I'm getting my credentials. Don't take that as a message. Don't take that as a message of me saying the streets will take care of you. No, education is important. Street smarts are also equally important. That's the only point I'm making. So anyway, education plus your street smarts multiplied by your life experience, and then all divided by time. That is how much intelligence that you have, and why that algorithm exists underneath everything that we outlined under the attraction algorithm. Within that algorithm also, we have to break down that very, very last part, the sex, the X. Now, what is sex? Yes, I'm sorry. We're getting back to sex. I apologize. Now, I promise it won't take long. Sex just breaks down into one small little division symbol. There you go. It is P times I, a capital I, mind you. Note that there was a difference in lettering there, not a lowercase. It is a capital I, and then all over E, which stands for emotion, as we broke down in the very first episode. So, sex is equal to PI over E, or pie, because everybody wants that sweet cherry pie, right? No, stop it. That's wrong. Anyway, so what does P stand for? P stands for passion, and I mean, I can't even begin to talk about passion. It is one of those emotions that is something really, really to be embraced. It is a very overwhelming emotion at times. And intimacy as well, which is why they are multiplied together. The heightened emotions that you get from passion and intimacy help enhance that act of sex. That's why they make up. That's why they take such a big portion of sex. Now, over emotions, right there. All of those, the passion and the intimacy, depends on how much emotion you actually put into it. Obviously, if you're not in love with the guy, it's not gonna be very intimate. If you don't have any kind of romantic feelings for the person that you're having sex with, there's not going to be any intimacy. Those are just going to cancel out, and all that's going to remain is passion. Now, if you have more intimacy, the intimacy is going to build. It's going to multiply with the passion. Let's say the solid number of passion is 10. The intimacy just depends on, again, how much emotion you put into it. And those will multiply together, and any number multiplied by 10 is going to obviously, except for 0. Now, obviously, if you don't have any emotion, it's going to be 0. But if any number multiplied by that passion number, it's going to enhance, which is why sex is always better when there's emotions involved, when there's intimacy, and when there's trust, and there's just that vibe with that person. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little detailed, but that's how you break down sex. This is how you break down the rest of this meat and potatoes algorithm. So going back to the very beginning, there we go. You have your trust and loyalty multiplied together, all divided by faith, how much faith you have in that person, and then multiplied by attraction. And then in their own little parentheses, you have sacrifice divided by compromise, multiplied by goals versus how much time you have left. And all of that is divided by communication. How much communication you put into a relationship really determines a lot. And the communication is the foundation, which is why everything is divided by communication. But yeah, all in all, there you have it. That is the breakdown of the meat and potatoes of the main part of the algorithm. This very big center part breaks down to even more complicated little parts. Again, if you haven't seen the very first, I keep on repeating myself, but if you haven't seen the very first episode, a lot of these little variable symbols that I have, they stand for something, and they make a very big part of this algorithm. Again, this was only a breakdown, so the very next episode, hopefully the last episode, I can put it all together and I can show you just exactly how it works. But there you have it. This is the meat and potatoes. We're gonna get to that little plus sign and everything on the end in the very next one, and round this whole thing out. In the meantime, I just wanted to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for participating and looking on, and hopefully you guys learned something. So I want to ask you, I mean, does it make sense to you? Does everything that I've outlined, does it give any kind of weight? Can you apply it to your own maybe relationship that you have, or can you apply it to people that you know that you've seen in relationships? Maybe they've broken up. Can you determine where in that relationship that might have caused the problem? Was it a lack of intimacy? Was it a lack of trust? Maybe they didn't have enough communication, as it would boil down to. In any event, yeah, tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment in the little boxes below. I'd love to know your opinions on the thing. Try it out, see what it works for you. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for watching Philosophical Fridays Part 2 and the breakdown. Please leave a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you're new to this channel, and stay tuned for more videos in next week's finale part of this algorithm, of the true love algorithm. Till then, cheerio, peace.